Do any of you know if I can start the session or do I need to wait for the introduction? How has the other sessions been?
This is my first one, but it
Oh,
looks it looks to me like Dr. Hales somebody just started recording. So
okay.
I'd
So
say
let's, should we get started then?
sounds good to me.
Okay.
I'm not in
Okay.
charge by any means.
Okay. So let's get going then. And thank you all for being here. I hope that we can make this session very interactive. So as I mentioned before, please take some time to download the Socrative app on your mobile devices. As I mentioned, is my recommended approach, but that you can also use Socrative in your computer by accessing socrative.com. The app will ask you for a room name. Please hold that screen. We'll continue in a few screens. I'll disclose the screen name. Please make sure that you don't download the teacher version. Please download the student version. If anyone has a question with about the app, please feel free to raise your hand or just ask a question. Okay, so I'm gonna start to move on. And this session name is called Turbocharging 100 plus participants face-to-face courses with online course simulation. And while you all download the app and get it ready, I want to thank Dr. Hales for the invitation to present at this virtual conference. And this session is going to be all about adding online, how adding online interactions to help the engagement piece in big courses. My name is Jerry Pedraza, and I work as a senior instructional designer and technology specialist for the College of Engineering at Texas A&M University. This is where I met Dr. Chapar, who came up with the idea of a face-to-face simulation for his students some time ago. So we worked together to enhance his idea of with technology tools in order to transform the delivery, simplify the classroom management, and also amplify the engagement. I hope you enjoy this session. So as a first question in Socrative, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that the room name is Idaho. So please input the room name so that we can start the conversation.
Does it matter if it's all caps or lowercase or any of that?
I really don't think so.
Okay.
It's just Idaho as.
There it is. Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome. Awesome. We have two participants. I really recommend that you join us through Socrative so to get the most out of this session so that you can experience the simulation. We're going to go through kind of what the students experience in class so that you can get the gist of the interaction. It's not going to be the full thing, but you're going to be able to interact as the student does in our class. Okay, thank you. We have 3 participants now. So if you decide not to join us to Socrative, can you please just put a no on Zoom so that I know that we can start to move on? I think there's a like a non-verbal communication piece that you can access in the participants tab. Okay, I think we should be ready to move on then. Okay. So thank you, the ones that are already submitted their emails. I will send this presentation to you, the hand note, so that you can have it handy in case you need to consult it afterwards. So this is my information. You can contact me by any of these means in case we don't have enough time to continue all the, respond to all your questions. This is my information. Please take note, or you'll have it because I'm gonna send you an email after the session. So now these are the objectives of the presentation. I want first to start by demonstrating how to use everyday technology tools to increase engagement and improve the student learning experience. And what I mean by everyday technology tools is Blackboard Collaborate, which is a tool that we use. I think you are familiar with it. And we also use Socrative, the tool that we are using right now to communicate and get your responses. Also, I intend to facilitate a simulation exercise very similar to what our students experience in the class, so that you can be in the shoes of the students and experience it from that perspective. Also, we're going to discuss how elements of gaming can be used to increase the realism in this simulation. By these, I mean unpredictability of things to add realism in the simulation. And finally, I hope that I can obtain some feedback from you on ways to improve the current simulation. So now let's go over and take a look at the teaching team. Dr. Chapar is the class professor, and I will let Dr. Chapar introduce himself. He's not here at the moment, but we recorded some audio.
Do we have to push play on the audio? I can't hear anything.
Oh, you cannot hear it. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Okay. Let me fix that. Because that should be working. Let me see. Okay, gotcha. I think this is the guy that was missing. Sorry about that. Please, can you confirm if now you can?
I still can't. Oh, here he is. I hear him.
From Texas A&M University. Sorry, I'm not.
Oops, sorry. I will restart that.
Not there to present this topic personally, but my colleague Jerry Pedroza will do an excellent job of presenting the topic. I have been with the Texas A&M University Industrial Distribution Program since 2007, so it has been some time. And I have been teaching this distribution network or industrial distribution network class for almost 10 years as well.
Okay, so that was Dr. Chapar's introduction. Sorry about the technical issue. I am Jerry Pedraza. I work as an instructional designer. In this class, I'm working as a moderator and a sequence keeper. So I take care mostly of keeping the students answering the correct questions, and also muting microphones, giving Dr. Chapar the responses of the students and things like that. So this is regularly run by 3 people. So I'm going to run it by myself and see how it goes. We also have the opportunity to have Anamika, who is Dr. Chapar's TA, and she's doing data analysis in the back end. so that we can get the calculations of which teams are on the first places, because we want this to be a highly competitive environment, which also adds to the gaming component. So now I'm going to move to the next question. Okay, gotcha. So it's now, can you name, what do you think it's the most important aspect of a simulation? There are many aspects, but which one do you consider would be the most if you don't have it, it's not considered a simulation? Does it need to be super real? Does it need to reflect reality? What is it engaging? Okay, awesome. Thank you for your response. Well, relevant? Okay. Yeah, it needs to be relevant to the topic, and of course have a real context attached to it to make it more engaging. Awesome. Thank you for your responses. So I want you to be thinking about these things during the presentation. When you experience it, I want you to think about how is it considered active learning? How do you see the instructor? Is he working as a facilitator? Are the students learning by doing things? Are they applying previous knowledge to create new? Is this also considered, do you think it's going to be considered an authentic activity? Also, if you see these gaming elements, we're going to talk about all of these by the end of the simulation. So now I want to talk a little bit about how, like the origins, how we came up with this simulation. So this process was started because Dr. Chapar was teaching a logistics class, like he mentioned, and an important skill that students needed to get in that class was demand forecasting. So even the students here need to learn how to use mathematical methods to be able to calculate the demand. But he noticed that they were not getting a very important aspect of forecasting. And it was that even if they were having the calculations right, they were not getting that the world is unpredictable, right? So even if you have the correct calculations, you need to calculate for the not calculated things in the world, right? So I'm gonna have Dr. Chapar say a few words about this.
So since 2007, I taught this class almost exclusively during the fall semester. And the class is titled IDIS 343 Distribution Logistics. Within this class, we basically do a lot of quantitative modeling and learn how to apply different techniques to forecasting problems, inventory management, warehouse and supply chain, and network design type of issues. But the forecasting is one of the critical components of all the featured topics. Without a proper understanding of forecasting and uncertainty associated with forecasting, students always have hard time of why we cannot do a perfect inventory planning or warehouse capacity planning.
So then he had to start thinking what was needed because students were getting the knowledge from his lectures and from reading what he asked for, but he needed to make it more immersive. So then he started to develop what he considered an authentic activity where it has a role-playing component where the students assume the role of consultants. And these consultants are supposed to forecast the sales of a product. So to take it even a little bit further, there were some elements of gaming and realism that were added. So students also receive information about the simulated world, and they have to use this information together with the methods that they use to analyze the information within teams, and use the to select, and then select a mathematical method so they can tweak their predictions using this analysis of information. And finally, outputting an educated guess, which would be the sum of the calculated method plus their predictions. So one of the questions was, is why was it moved online? So I'll let Dr. Kapar introduce this part.
So before taking this game to an online simulation, I used to have this one during a class period. At that time, I was teaching a Tuesday, Thursday class period, which was 75 minutes. I would ask students to come early. I would have my TA with me in the class, give students a clicker, and then gather the data using those clickers. But I had to ask them again early, and I would also let them go about 10, 15 minutes late, because we wouldn't even have enough time to finish in that 75 minutes. So it was a little bit time crunched.
So one of the elements was time. The class period changed. And also he wanted to include both sections. He had two sections, a 100 student section and a 50 students section. And he wanted to include both sections so that he just had to run the simulation once, because it lasts like for 2 hours. So this also eliminates space restrictions. Sometimes finding a room that big is not as easy. So, and also what the moving online the simulation means is that it also simplifies class management, because moving back and forth between group work and then feedback from the professor and their direct instruction becomes a hassle with groups that big. And finally, another skill that the students get is they build online tool skills. Like, for example, having the ability to do online conferences is a good thing to have in the job market today. So now we're gonna see an example of how the simulation is run. But before that, I don't know if anyone has questions so far. Okay, so I am going to run this example. This is a small video that shows what happens on the class. We are located in a room and all the students are.
So what we are
online.
doing is basically, for example, let's say we are in December 96 right now, and we are forecasting January 97. And then we will see the demand for January 97 or sales for the January 97, and we are going to forecast February 97. And we will just keep this one going on. All right, the time is up. Please submit your responses.
We have 27 responses.
All right, I need 2 more people. If you don't submit in 10 seconds, we are going to the next question. So actual sales in January 97.
I'm going to stop for a little while here just to let you know what happens on the back end. This is the screens that I have on my computer, and on one of them I have Blackboard Collaborate with the instructions and with all the students, where I can just mute microphones and do class management over there. And on the right, I have also Socrative, in which I'm receiving the input of the students. And the students, you can see the phone there. It's like what you're doing right now with inputting the responses. And I am going to continue the video right now, and we will, if there's any questions after the video, just let me know.
7 was 300. So anybody got the 300 number? Raise your hand if you got it.
No.
All right.
We have a 305.
Anybody within 10? 10 error. 292, 310. Right, Charles? Tell us how you come up with that number. Go ahead, Charles.
We just took the moving average of all the months together, and we made a prediction based off of we just made a prediction based off of how the moving average was going down.
I see. Very good.
And then, like we predicted the moving average should be 388, but we took off some because all the other averages were above following that trend.
Okay,
Is he
great.
810?
And what was your number? What did you enter?
305.
305. Great, perfect. Thank you, Charles, and thank you to your team.
Okay, so that's how the interaction takes place. And this is just a screenshot of Collaborate. I wouldn't go into depth. It's very similar to the system we're using right now. I think most of you are familiar with it. So I'll just move on. So why did we use Blackboard Collaborate and Socrative? Blackboard Collaborate is integrated into our learning management system, so it makes it easy for us to just put it in the course, and it can handle 150 participants, which it was what we needed. It's we have used it with more, so we are sure that it can handle all of those participants. It managed interaction well as microphone use, and we have had very few technical issues with it. And one of the advantages over other systems that I have seen is that it has the support of breakout rooms. So that has been an important component that we have not seen in other apps. And if we want to move this simulation to a fully online environment, that's going to be vital, like having breakout rooms so that students can work in teams and then come back to the central room. So Socrative, we like to use it because we can manage the pace of the application contrary to other similar applications that we tested. Also, it's cross-platform and it's usable in mobile devices, and it outputs in the reports in comma-separated values format, which is really easy to import to Excel and manage the data. And the paid version holds 150 participants. I believe that the free version holds 50 participants. So when playing online, these are kind of the roles that we assume. The instructor provides guidance and does a little bit of classroom management as well, and asking questions to the student and then providing feedback. I act as the moderator, which is another role here, in which I run a lot of troubleshooting before the class starts. We ask the students to go in like 15 or 30 minutes sometimes early to troubleshoot any issues and run the class smoothly. I control the pace with Socrative and also control the microphones to, you know, sometimes students are not very careful with muting themselves. So that's a good thing to have. Also, we take attendance because we want everyone to participate. So we ask them all to join Collaborate. And then I also export the results. And we have the piece of the students in which they analyze information, apply previous knowledge to solve problems, and collaborate in teamwork. And after they receive the feedback, reflect on their responses. So all students have to log into the virtual classroom environment. We ask all 150 of them to be on Blackboard Collaborate so that we can see that all of them are there participating. They're grouped in teams of 5. So we end up with approximately 50 or 60 groups sometimes. And the students join in person, meaning that there's 5 students join in the same location, but then interact with others online. The simulation is played in 2 rounds, totaling more than 2 hours. So, but here, don't worry, we're not gonna do that much. The professor can call any of the students to ask questions, in which he most of the time takes the student that responded more close to the response and then ask them to say how they came with the response, so all can benefit from that thought process. There's also attendance taken through the system, and each team captain joins to Socrative so that we only get 1 response per team, which is very important. So this is kind of the mechanics and the workflow. I won't go again into deep. I'll send you this presentation so that you can view it afterwards. But this is kind of what happens in each of the sites, in each of the applications. So now, hopefully, if you just join, please download Socrative on your mobile device or access it directly to socrative.com. We're going to use this so that you can experience just a gist of the simulation, so that you can see how the gaming components and the role playing take place in the class. If you have any questions right now, please let me know. Okay, so
Jerry,
yes.
are you seeing the chat?
Oh,
There was just a question about Collaborate's not having a polling feature, and that's why you use Socrative or
oh, no.
Socrative.
Yeah, it has a polling feature, but it's how do I put it? It's just yes and no, I think.
Right.
Or you have to build, I think. Well, there's a new version of Collaborate right now, but we were using the old one in this video. You had to use a system that they have to create the quizzes before and then upload them. It's a little bit bulky.
Bulky,
right?
and probably you probably get better reports
True.
from the other system. So
yes, and also like I mentioned, it allows us to keep the pace of the class smoothly. Right now, I switched to another question. Oh, thank you for alerting me of that question. Thank you. And now, if you're ready to start, please let me know. I just have 1 response. I need another 6 responses. So that way I'm going to be sure that all of you are ready to get going. I have 4 responses of 7. Can you all please respond so that we can move on? Okay, so I am going to go ahead and explain about the simulation while the rest of you respond to that question. I'm going to give you a brief overview. So the students receive 1 day before the simulation their team assignations. They receive who they're going to be playing this game with. They receive the rules and receive the previous sales data that they can use as reference. So this is your orientation. You have been hired by Lure Corporation, and it's 1997. You can tell by the nice clip art there. And right now, last year, 1996, Lure Corporation launched the X2 line of fishing lures, right? Anyone not familiar with what fishing lures are? Okay, so you have been hired as part of the sales forecasting team, and your mission is to use the data of the previous year, 1996, to make predictions about the sales for 1997. So you have as your tools the past year sales, which is that graphic there. On the x-axis, you will see the months of the year for the previous demand of that product. And on the y-axis, you're going to see the units that were part of that demand. And but you don't need to take notes about this. This is going to be displayed always on screen so that you can have it handy. And also you're going to use a simple mathematical method that it's going to be the moving average tool. You can just open your calculators using the Windows key and just type calc. If you have a Mac, you can type the command key spacebar and type calc, or you can just use the calculator in your phone. And this moving average method consists of using the prior 3 months to calculate the next month. So you just add the 3 months and divide them by 3. It's pretty easy, right? But you're gonna have to tweak your predictions using information that's gonna be disclosed periodically. And this is information about the environment, the virtual environment, and you can also use your own experience. So we're about to start the forecasting game. And this is how students receive the news. Like they receive new information in ways of newspaper. We're thinking about including also maybe some tweets or other media that's more modern than the newspaper. But this is what we're using right now. Every time new information is disclosed, it comes at them in this form. So you are part of Lure Corporation, which is based in Victoria, Texas. And the product that you're forecasting is the X2 fishing line that was introduced in 1996. And this company has hired, or it says here that it's planning to hire a new team of consultants from Idaho. So those are all of you guys to help them with the forecasting the demand of a product. So right now we're going to move on and ask what's going to be the demand for January 1997. You have the data right there, which is the previous months. As you can see, the color coding tells you that January 1996 is the last year in the blue line, and the red line, which is January 97, is what you're going to have to predict. In January 96, there were no sales because the product was just introduced. So now you are tasked to respond. What would be your forecast for January 1997? And to make this a little bit more interesting, I'm going to use a timer. You're going to have a minute to calculate each of the predictions. Any questions so far? Okay, I'm going to start the timer now. Okay, Jen is super fast. Delania. Great responses, everyone. Okay, I have 3 responses of 7. Four responses. Thank you. Please submit your responses. If I move to the next question, your question has the, your response has the risk to be added to the next question, and that will create kind of a mess for you. Okay, so the time is out. Thank you all for your responses. And I'm gonna show you The actual response was 108. So all of you did very good, really close, but you didn't have a lot of information back then, right? You just had like the 3 prior months that you used to calculate it. So it was like pretty straightforward. One of you, Heidi, she did a little bit more of tweaking the response, which is good. So now you receive some news. So the news are that there has been a stock out, which is hurting the sales. It means that there's a little or no product on the shelves. So these will be affecting the sales of the next calculation or of the next month. That would be February 1996, right? So we're going to move on to calculate February 1996 with the information you have, but please also take in account, sorry about that. Okay. So please also take in account what I just mentioned about the world, that there is a stockout going on. Please go ahead and make your predictions. Last time the demand was 108, and last January was 108 as well. So you might want to use that data, the two 108s, or maybe you want to use other type of combination. So we have 20 seconds left. Okay, now I'm seeing numbers that are different. That's good because you're starting to add, to calculate, but also adding your predictions based on what is happening around, right? We have 3 responses so far, and the time is up. So let's see what was going on here. So the demand was 72, way down. And I'm gonna ask Jen if she can tell us why she calculated 104, because she was the closest one. Jen, can you let us know what your thought process for calculating the 104? Do we need to unmute her mic, or is she able to unmute her? Okay, and it's okay if you don't want to be put on the spot. Anyone else that want to let us know why they responded the way they did? Okay, so then we'll move on to the next response, which would be March 1997.
Jerry,
Yes.
Jen replied in the chat.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry, I don't have the chat open. Let me see if I can find a way to open it.
And she said that she used the prior 3-month average, then discounted for the stock out.
Okay, that's really good. Thank you for sharing that, Jen. Sorry about that, I didn't see your chat. Oh, here's the chat. Okay, found it. Okay, I'm gonna put it here in my other screen. All right, so then let's move on to the next one. We're gonna skip a few months ahead, so don't worry about, we're not going to go through all the months. But what I want you to experience is those real, or those trying to apply those elements of realism or to mixed unpredictability. It's not just doing calculations, but it's also adding that human component, which is what the instructor wanted students to experience so they become better forecasters. So Recuperation is back in business. They hire a new production manager that promises there will be no more stockouts. So now we are going to predict the demand for March 1996. Please go ahead and make your predictions. And I'm going to start the timer now. So last year, it was 156. And then you can use maybe, you have to decide if you're going to use 108.72 and or 108. Okay, good predictions. They're a little bit different from each other. So now there's something to take in account, because what happens after a stock out, right? People weren't able to get to the product. So the tendency most of the time is for people to or get upset with the product. Thank you for your responses. As I was saying, or the people can go to the store and buy a lot. So let's see what happened. So the demand went really high. So it went to 252. And Bob was the closest one. Great job there, Bob. And now we have a fishing tournament that we're sponsoring. Right now, we moved until June, so we are in the future now. Look, June 1996, we're predicting. So there's going to be a tournament that we are sponsoring, and we're even giving participants prototypes of the new fishing lures. So that marketing effort for sure will impact the sales, but we don't know how about how much they're gonna increase. So for sure we know that it might go well. For sure, it's not the best wording, so we can guess that it's going up, right? So please make your predictions for the next month, the month of June. One of the problems here is that you don't have enough information about the past year's sales, right? You just have the numbers, but you don't know what's going on during those times. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to move the question. Okay, so now we're predicting June 1997. Okay, so we're starting to get those responses in. All right, so all of you have submitted. I'm going to stop the timer now. Okay, so let's see what happened. So it went all the way to 504. Wow, Bob is really close. You're gonna you can have a future in the forecasting business. So now let's move on to the next month. We have some news here. There's extreme weather predictions. We're gonna be calculating for the next month of August, and I'm gonna move on the question as well. So let's see the graph, and well, I'm sorry. So the prediction says that the meteorologists anticipate that the extreme weather will clear soon, right? But even that, some fishermen started to take precautions based on these predictions. So it's not for sure that it's going away. So it depends on your thoughts on this, right? Really. And as I was saying, you don't have a lot of information of what happened last time. So the first round, it's really difficult to predict. When students do this the second time, they know what happened the first time, right? So they have kind of a summary of things that happened. They know that 504, that raise in demand was because there was a marketing effort behind. And they know that when that 72 means not a lot because there was a stock out. So you need to have more information in order to make these predictions. It's not just the numbers, but factors in the world, or in this simulated world, right, that affect. Thank you for your responses. Time is running out. 2 responses from 4. Okay, thank you for submitting your responses. And let's see what was the demand. Last time it was 420. And this time, oh, so a tornado hits the area. And this happened when you're doing your predictions, right? So you're not aware of what's going to happen down the month. So a tornado hits the area and it surprised everyone. So the demand was actually 276. Wow. So yeah. So this is an unexpected event, right? That drops the demand really low. We have been seeing an increase in the demand and suddenly it goes down. So this is something unexpected. A lot of students struggle with these, but this is what the instructor wants them to have. Be frustrated, because that's really what happens when you're making predictions and you learn by those. So next time you're going to be looking out for the weather and checking out what's going to happen or things like that. It's impossible to predict everything, right? But you can make an educated guess to be closer to the prediction. So now you received some news about the cold front being here. So not a lot of people would want to go fishing, right? With the cold weather. Oops, sorry, I went ahead. So I hope no one saw that. So we're gonna move on and predict the month of November. And this is the last month we're going to predict. So please submit your answers and I'm gonna start the timer really quick. Here we go. Okay, we start to get the responses. And I'm trying to see. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. So I got some funny responses in one of them. Okay, so we're done with the timer. So I'm just going to send it back. And the actual sales were 72. It was kind of expected, but this is kind of the summary, that this is the takeaway or the history of what happened and what caused each of the rises or valleys in the graph, right? There was first a stock out, then some back orders, then a tornado, then marketing efforts, a cold front. So all of these variables you have to take in account. So I hope that you enjoyed it. The simulation in class is played in 2 rounds. But the second round is more focused on using the expertise or the expert element, because students receive results already upfront. So the first time they have to calculate, the second time the calculations are made for them, and they have like different methods to choose from. So because usually this is done by a computer, they just go and check the input, the calculation from the world, and it's done for them. So they have many methods to choose from, but so this only focuses on the forecasting, more about the analysis of the information. So they receive more information and they start to notice that having that information becomes powerful. But not only knowing, not only the information is power, but what is more powerful is to know how to use that information. And I'm going to let Dr. Chapar close this by saying something.
Forecasting is one of the crucial points in the entire course, because if you cannot do a proper forecasting, high accuracy forecasting, then all your inventory planning and further actions are going to fail because you don't have a strong foundation for it. And throughout the semester, I keep telling students that, forecasts are uncertain, imprecise, they are not always right. Actually, they are always wrong. So I give this impression to students that whatever you do, forecasting is not a good thing, right? But in reality, that is not the case. You can use forecasting if you know what you are doing properly and take advantage of that information. So with this forecasting game or simulation, what we are trying to show students that although forecasts are uncertain and always kind of wrong, we can use information we have to improve our accuracy. And we do this using 2 years of gameplay, simulation gameplay.
Okay. I was just looking at the chat. Are there different types of simulations available for use, or the instructors need to develop their own? Well, I actually work with them to develop them. So it's the effort is from both parts. They just reach to our department, which is the distance learning department, and they come to us and they okay, I want to do this. Like, how do I do it? Right? Or I am teaching this face to face. I want to take it online. What tools do I use? How do we design it? So we work with them, and every time they run the simulation, or he runs the simulation, I work with him. We don't have a lot of professors doing this. I have another question. Oh, no. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I hope that clear your question. Yes. Well, the instructional designer work with faculty all the time to create different things. This is just one of the examples. And I'm going to go really quick. The student feedback, most of it has been positive. That is a great way to learn. Forecasting is a difficult skill to master. It's also collaborating in groups. I did not expect a tornado. So most of the response from the students have been really positive. We have done some improvements, which was like getting better instructions to the student. So we're listening to what they're asking us to input, as well as I hope that I can get some input from you on your thoughts on how to make this better. So now let's have a small discussion with the time that we have left. I hope that we are on time. I think we still have a couple of minutes. And remember, if you don't get to ask anything right now, you can just get in touch with me afterwards. And I'm going to try to send to open the slide that goes directly to my contact information. Here we go.
So would these students then, instead of going to a class period, they did this, they all were asked to just go into the learning management system and log in lieu of a class period. Okay.
Yeah, instead of having that class period, students, actually this is moved at a later, I think they played from 6 to 8. So we try to move it at
evening.
That time. Yes, we try to move it at that time so that it doesn't interfere with their other classes.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is done, I mean, they don't go to the room that day, they go to the simulation.
But the students were expected to meet together as a team.
Exactly, yes. That part is still face-to-face. They're having this interaction face-to-face, but each team joins online. Plus, all the participants join online at the same time. Yeah. And
then, so primarily, what we consider traditional students would be the population?
Yes, for this is, yes, exactly. This is a face-to-face class that has been added this component to make it possible to do this kind of exercises or simulations without being in the class, and mitigate any other problems like we talked about, like the time restriction, like the room restriction, etc.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there different type of okay, I got that question. How long does it typically take to develop the initial version of the simulation? Yes, so this process, the professor already had his own version. He came to our department, so I helped him with kind of the rethinking the graphics to make it more straightforward, I guess. So the modifying the colors, the graphics, adding more interactions or more news. He actually had a very few, so we started adding more of those. But it took us around like maybe a couple of months to develop it, and then it took us like a month to test it with a focus group of students, and then we modified it. And so I think the whole development to get it to a good a good point was around like 4 or 5 months working with the professor. And professors are most of the time really busy doing research and other things. So getting his attention. We schedule weekly meetings. Like we meet each just to collect information and to see how we're going, if he likes what I'm doing, and then we. You're welcome. Thank you for your questions. Do we have any other questions? My information is on screen in case you want to contact me. I will upload the presentation also to my website in case you were not able to send me your address, or you can just shoot me an email and I can send you the presentation in case you're interested. Thank you all. Yeah, thank you.
Time to do this. This is very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.
And thanks for the people who joined it. So have a great rest of the day.
Awesome. Thank you.